覚悟はできてるのか。
遠慮とかそういうのなしで頼むわ。
Making two-dimensional sprites look like three-dimensional objects has been a trick pulled off in games for decades. But how do you do the opposite? That is, make a 3D game look 2D. Today, we're going to learn about how Japanese developer Arc System Works figured out the answer while working on fighting game Guilty Gear Xrd. And yes, that is how you pronounce it, I checked.
引退したんじゃねえのか。さすがに暇になってね。
Heaven or hell, duo, let's rock!
The year was 2011, and development was just beginning on the successor to Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus R. Quite a mouthful of a name, definitely time for an update. The 25-developer-strong Team Red, directed by series creator Daisuke Ishiwatari, had chosen to differentiate Arc System Works' two major fighting game franchises. BlazBlue would remain purely sprite-based, while Guilty Gear would be made with 3D molds instead, a series first. Cel-shaded 3D was their chosen method, in order to strengthen the visual links between the game and the Japanese anime style that it was based on. There had not been a tremendous amount of experimentation with the style, the most notable recent example is the Borderlands games, but Team Red took this as a challenge to innovate and to stand out. The sprites were designed in Autodesk Softimage, for the design power available in its tools and its ability to perform cel shading in real time as they worked. But for all the technology available to them, Team Red made the human element the most important. As they were redesigning their characters, it was the artist's job to remove anything that made the models look too 3D, and to ensure that every part was designed consciously with nothing left to chance and the engine's calculations to work out alone. For as technical artist Junior C. Motomura said, while the math within the shaders is always correct, correct is just not good enough. The models were made with a high polygon count, so that when the game cut to the dramatic angles, the character would still look really good. To make the close-ups look better still, Team Red avoided using traditional textures, which can look bad at some resolutions, and instead stored this data in the properties of the polygons themselves, meaning that they could scale with whatever size they appeared at. Now, the reason cel shading is not often used is because it is incredibly difficult to get it right. In cel shading there are only two states, lit or unlit objects. Your models therefore need to be pixel perfect in design, otherwise you end up with weird dark spots all over it like some horrific disease. Amazingly, this is what the designers did. Every single part of the models were given specific colours when lit or shaded, and a value for how much light was needed for them to change between the two. Also, it's worth noting that there is no global light source like there is in many games. Every character gets their own piece of light. It's positioned in a way that the characters look their best while in their idle animations, but it can be moved and was repositioned in fact frame by frame in all the cutscenes. So with all the art done, how do you make 2D motion in 3D? The answer is limited animation, which the designers compare to stop-motion animation, but with digital models instead of clay models. Every frame is posed specifically by the designer, and some are made deliberately imperfect. You know how you can sometimes see these funny images of cartoons with the characters in between expressions? This is exactly what you will find if you examine the cutscenes of Guilty Gear Xrd closely, which is an insane level of dedication to go to, and I absolutely love it.
理想と屋根は高くね。クラウドベリーちゃん、再始動ある。
Junior Motomura, with a great deal of modesty, said that these techniques are not special at all and have been achievable in theory for years. The trick, he says, was letting the artist know best all the way through from the start to the end of the design process. The team were already experts in 2D, very invested in the franchise, and although they were interested in 3D, they all agreed that photorealism is not always the go-to answer when designing new 3D games. Now, I appreciate photorealistic graphics, I certainly do, but if giving those up every so often means that we get games as striking as Guilty Gear Xrd, then I'm all for tearing up the rulebook. If you want more information on this particular topic, Junior Motomura went into much greater detail on this subject during a talk he gave at GDC 2015, which there is a link to here. Thanks again for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.